Welcome, guys. So today we are going to finish up our crab build part 2 and finally get this tank planted and our inhabitant female vampire crab set up in it so that she can have a nice new home instead of the temporary bin that she's been set up in. Let's get into it. So first and foremost, we are still using the ZoomEd Reptisun 16-inch LED on this tank. It is a ZoomEd 6-gallon creatures habitat. If you've seen the previous video, I'll link it up in the top corner at the end of the video. I scaped this with this natural root structure. This branch is, or this root piece is definitely going to cause me some issues with the lid, which I'm aware of. But I have some various things that I'd like to add today. So we're going to start with a couple of our, gotta rearrange things a bit here. I have some Peperomia Hope cuttings that I wanted to use for a build. I like the round leaves of this plant. Struggling to get it out because it's rooted into the moss. So there's our Peperomia Hope. I really like this plant. It gives a various different leaf structure than what you usually would come across, as well as they're pretty rigid. Like, they're nice and thick leaves, thick stalks on it. Good looking plant if you're looking for something like this, where you're worried about animals needing to climb on them and things like that. So I'm going to tuck this in where our waterfall pump is and kind of drape it so that it grows, hopefully, over towards the back area. I have a couple of other cuttings, or one other cutting, I guess, in this case, which I'm going to add on the opposite side, because things in nature generally don't come in ones. So I usually try to use multiple of the same plant in a setup. If you haven't, like, if you've seen my previous videos, I just prefer how it looks. I think it gives more of a natural aesthetic to the build overall. I also have a little Phytonia or nerve plant that I want to add in just for a splash of a little bit darker of a green. These plants are super hardy more often than not. They'll take to dry conditions, they'll take to pretty much anything you throw at them. Very moist conditions, things like that. So I've been soaking this plant and keeping it for a few weeks now, trying to prevent any, make sure any fertilizers and things like that have worked their way out of the substrate. So that's why I left that little bit on there without any worries. I would like to get it back underneath this light, which helps you guys, doesn't really help me much. I'd like to get it underneath here without damaging the plant too much, so that you can kind of see it growing through the root structures and things like that. Barely visible, sort of hidden, tucked away, but nonetheless I think that it's going to be a good looking plant. This is a, don't know how well you're going to be able to see that. It's a wilting Seligania wallachai cutting that I took this morning. It's not very happy with me. But I know I wanted it in this build as well. So I'm hoping that it'll bounce back. It grows shelf-like leaf structures. So I'm going to tuck that just inside this little crevice here. We do have quite a few plants that we're going to be adding from various larger plants, like this jewel orchid that I've been hanging on to for a bit. I have a habit of collecting plants whenever I'm at a garden center or one of the reptile expos, things like that, for situations like this where I know I need to build something, but I don't know what I want to build or what plants I'll need for that build. I'm going to use some sphagnum moss to tuck in and around our rocks for our next plant occupant. that probably gave it away. But this next plant that we're going to be introducing doesn't really fancy growing in your average soil setup. So I actually found this guy at a local Terra. It's a Drosera rotundifolia with multiple plantlets inside the pot. So for $12, I couldn't say no to grabbing a little carnivorous plant to throw in our setup. Just want to sidetrack for 1 second here. This little bag that they commonly plant the seeds into, this will constrict your plants, especially on larger plants. As you can see, it doesn't come off very nicely. It's supposed to break down. It really doesn't. But I call them bags of death because it will constrict the roots enough to kill the plant if it's a larger tropical. So I always remove those, which is now on the table in camera view. No good. We'll clean that up after. But you can see there's multiple plants here as I get covered in the sticky nectar that they use to draw out the plants or draw the insects in. So I have 2 there. I think that's where we're going to end up leaving this. This does have multiple plants on it, but because I only put those 2 spots of sphagnum, I think that should be fine for now. So these guys are sensitive towards high nutrient content substrates. So that's why the sphagnum. There's one there, and the other one's going to go in this other little pocket that we put the sphagnum in. They should adapt. They're super hardy, honestly. As you can tell, they're growing out of Terra in a tiny little, whatever, mini greenhouse setup thing that they put them in. Not exactly the most ideal for any sort of plant, in my opinion, but obviously they're hardy enough that they tolerate it. That species is actually native to Canada as well, which is really cool. We're going to add this Gensurade species. I'm not sure which one this is. It might be my African violet, but I'm not 100%. I just really want this tank to be nice and lush for our crab female that we're adding in. It might look like heck for a couple days. Apparently it went to flower and I missed it. That should develop into a seed pod long term. So I'm just really trying to get this type of larger root structure. Makes it extremely difficult to try and plant in and around. And this was the bin that our crab female was hiding in. So we're just going to, we'll show her to you. Little beautiful girl. She's been in quarantine for a while. She's more of a pet, honestly, than anything. So we're going to introduce her now, just because as much as we still have work to do in here, I don't really want her running away. I have a couple of little oak leaf ficus cuttings that I wanted to add for a contrasting leaf structure size with everything else. They will tolerate rather moist conditions. This waterfall does work. I have it unplugged for this so that I can have the light running, and I have limited amounts of plugs in this location. So I'm gonna kind of tuck this guy in this very busy pocket of plants over here. And it should grow out eventually and start taking over things. Last but not least, I have this Solera. I believe it's a Solera. They commonly call it baby's tears at garden centers and things. It's just another pot that I let grow. But I know that it grows really quickly, or reasonably quickly. So I just like to take cuttings from it and kind of drop them throughout setups to add almost a diversity of, well, plant structure, leaf structure, plants, just a different look. It gives me, or it makes me feel like it's almost a weed when you have, like, when you look in a forest and you see a bunch of one plant, but then you see a bunch of little tiny cuttings of something else, or grasses and things like that growing up and out. So I'm just going to kind of drop this guy down in where I know he's going to get moisture. This one I don't think will adapt to that much moisture. So we'll drop him over here. This is a very busy side. But again, I don't mind that. We may have some losses with our plants. And for isopods in this one, I decided to go with Christarmadillidium muricatum, or the pineapple spiky isopod. Just gonna drop that leaf in there. They have a piece of carrot, which is relevant for this. I'm going to put a clip of these guys in the tank, or in the video for you to see closer, because as you can see, they blend right in with this sphagnum. You're probably thinking, that's an expensive isopod to be putting in with crabs that may turn it into lunch. There's only one crab. Saying that, I'm also not all that worried. These guys are super hardy and prolific breeders, so I think they're going to do very well in this setup for me. And last but not least, I have some oak leaves that I just wanted to add for A, snacks, because the crab will eat them, and B, I like the look of them. I keep them on the branch whenever possible. This came from a fallen tree branch that I had found in a local park. And this one's even bigger, but we're going to break it down in just smaller sections. So vampire crabs as a whole, super hardy, super tolerant. If you have an opportunity to keep them, I would recommend it. I don't recommend keeping multiple males. It never ends well. You're going to end up with one male at the end of the day. And you're just going to have continuous fighting. It's not the best idea for both you or the animal. If you can keep one male to multiple females, like 3 to 4 females, better, much better, safer for both you and the animals, so you can actually enjoy them. I'm adding some springtail clay, more so for an extra calcium bump here and there, for the crab itself. I try to add this stuff to almost every enclosure we do, but sometimes we can't.